I'm Pratap Ramamurthy. I'm a senior technical marketing engineer with Spirent. I'm going to be demoing Temeva.com and our application on that TrafficCenter. This is a browser. I'm going to go to spirentlab.temeva.com. Spirent Lab is a domain that we created for this demo. I'm going to log in with my credentials, demo1@spirentlab.com. This could be a Cisco at cisco.com or at whatever.com, right? This is the portal that Neil was talking about, which gives you the dashboard, the applications, the way to manage your users, and so on. This is the dashboard, and you see there is one application here right now. It's called TrafficCenter. Right, and it shows you the current activities, current tests that you're running, and the recent activities, and so on. All right.
So before we go any further, your user authentication, does that integrate with any directory service at all for role-based access control?
Sorry, say that again.
So the question was, do we support LDAP or any of the IT infrastructure? The answer is yes. Okay. It will support, so you can use single sign-on and that element. That's part of our infrastructure and design.
Cool.
The last thing we want is somebody to have another password for another service. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. We have one application right now for this demo. It's called TrafficCenter. In future, very soon we're going to have more applications. And I want to click on this application and show you what it gives you. This is the page that shows you the applications. Right?
I'm sorry, can you zoom in a little bit?
Okay.
It's hard to see in the light. Thank you.
Right, TrafficCenter is the first application we want to showcase using Temeva.com. It's a new web application that provides layer 2, layer 3 with synthetic layer 7 traffic tests. They're easy to configure and execute, even for users doing traffic testing for the first time. Okay. In this page, what you see is you have some applications to download that you can download from this page. Right, you have various versions of it for QCOW2 format, OVA format for VMware, and so on. Okay, when you download this is a package that's been generated for this account, and when you install it, it's going to call back and make sure that the location is registered with Temeva.com. As you can see, I've already installed this application, and it shows up in two locations. San Jose and Sunnyvale. I have this application installed already. Okay, the TrafficCenter is the application that lets you configure test cases, right? And you also need the agents. That is a Spirent Test Center Virtual. That is the virtual form of our physical chassis. That's Spirent Test Center. Okay. Now we're going to actually see a traffic test. Here's the top bar, which shows the applications that I have installed, that have been enabled for this account. That's TrafficCenter, and I have two locations. I'm going to click on one of these locations. It opens a new tab. This is the TrafficCenter application. This is also a browser-based application. This has several pieces to it. I want to highlight a few things before running a traffic test. Okay. The first is the duration of the test. How long do you want to run this for? This is it's going to run for 1 minute. Okay, you can change that. The second part is a load specification. It lets you specify what is the traffic load that you want to use for this test case. Okay. Here's the health indicators that Neil mentioned. It's on the top right. We're also going to look a little deeper into that. The next thing we want to do, number 4 out of the 5, is the subnets. So you need to define your subnets for the two sides on what these endpoints are going to use. So this could be a different subnet. It could be configured in very unique ways. Okay. The last is the traffic mixer. You have to tell the tool. It lets you define what kind of traffic mixes that you want. Like you said, maybe IPv4, synthetic HTTP, maybe a mix of these with the different priorities, and so on. Okay, and just to elucidate on the last point about the traffic mixes, so we already give you a pre-configured traffic mixes.
So can I create my own TCP streams, for example? I want to do 1433 for SQL, or can I just define whatever the hell I want?
Yeah, so when you define the parameters, I don't know if we'll have it in this demo, but so the concept is you have traffic flows that make up a traffic mix. And you can see here we have HTTP, FTP.
Yep.
You know, you could come in, we'll continually add, we can add a TCP flow, and you can have custom port parameters that you want to tweak.
Can you do UDP as well?
Yeah.
Cool.
Makes sense? So what he was talking about is we have different traffic flows here. A mix of the traffic flows makes a traffic mix. Okay? And now this is the application that's going to let you, like I said before, this is the application that lets you define the test case, right? Now let's do that. This is the, first thing I'm going to do, let me do that first. First thing I want to do is the test duration. I want to keep it at 1 minute. I want to keep the load at 100%. The third thing I want to do is the subnets for the west side of things. And I'm going to choose the ports. This is the agent that he was talking about. I'm going to choose the ports that is going to generate this traffic and receive the traffic. And when I click on that to select the port that's going to generate the traffic, it gives me this. These are all the Spirent Test Center VMs that we've already configured for this. If you notice, like I said before, we have the VM version of the software. We also have our chassis, right? This tool works with both our virtual and our hardware. It's the same tool that can manage both.
And one of the cool things, and to address Keith's point of some of the complexity, is, you know, if you're in a virtual environment, you know, what MAC address do I use? You know, and there's a little toggle in there for unique MAC. In the virtual environment, we'll take the virtual NIC MAC address. If you're in a different environment, it'll auto configure the MAC for you. So we've tried to take some of that complexity and, for lack of a better word, dumb it down so anybody could just come in and use it and get their network running.
Okay. So I can choose which VM or which agent I want to use. I want to select the first two ones. Okay. And then I have to choose which port I'm going to use. This is a 1 gig port here. I'm going to do the same thing for the west. So notice this one's grayed out because it's been used already. I'm going to use the other one for the other end. Okay, we have configured the subnets. There was a default subnet configuration. I'm going to go with that. Now I'm going to play with the traffic mixes. What is the traffic I want to send? Right, if I click here, it gives me pre-configured traffic mixes. I want to use the first one, IPv4 basic. To his point, can I modify this? I want to modify this just so that I feel like it. I'm going to use the IPv4 higher priority one and drop it in here. Okay, it gave me at 10%. The IPv4 routine is 90%. I feel like increasing this percentage some more. I'm going to.
Can we? Is it possible? Do you guys have like an import port tool where I can take like a PCAP from a specific time and say that, you know what, I want to mimic what my typical traffic load is like, or traffic load during a particular period of time and day?
Yeah, so in this tool, not right away, but from a roadmap perspective, we have something that we call Session Crusher. Okay. I'm going to take a PCAP, import it in, and replay that over the network that you have. So we'll take it from the kind of layer 3 and above, or layer 4 and above, because you may want to replace the layer 3 elements to fit in your network if you want to tweak it. So yeah, so that will be yet another application that will.
So this goes back to the App Store perspective.
Correct. So the idea, and part of the problem from history is we just keep adding everything into one application, which makes it very complex to use. And everyone seems to be adopting the app model, very tailored apps for very specific purposes, and that's what we're trying to accomplish as well. And they all have the same look and feel, so you'll be able to navigate around.
That's great for smaller enterprises, because one of the issues that we have is the cost of duplicating everything in a test environment, especially when it comes to the networking side of things. So that means that I can take a snapshot of real-time usage during the week and then replay that after hours or on the weekend to simulate a normal workday workload on the infrastructure I already have.
Yeah, and the other way it helps is you don't have to buy a $100,000 piece of software because it does everything.
Yeah.
You can have tailored solutions that's much more cost effective for the problem that it's solving or question that it's answering.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. I want to modify the percentage. I feel like going with 36.07%. All right, and I'm going to choose my east to west traffic. I'm going to go with IPv4. I do want to now check my health indicators. So this was the health indicators that Neil was talking about, right? It has several pre-configured ones: dead flows, flooded flows, latency with a threshold of 20 to 50 microseconds, drop frames. So this is right now says this shows me a warning if there is even a dropped frame that's more than 0. So I can set it maybe to 1 or whatever that I need based on what my SLA validation parameter is. Okay? And that's pretty much it. Let's start. It wants me to save the test. I want to save live demo.
Yeah, so right now what it's doing, it's making sure everything is set up and running, it's validating the environment, reserving the port, setting up the network, and then run the test.
One thing I just wanted to ask about, if this is all it's still testing, but it's on a live network, you've got users and business applications all running, you still want to run the test to see what it's going to be like to saturate a link or saturate a firewall, for example, but you don't want to bring down your company working while doing the test. Do you have sort of some protection mechanisms in that to do the test as well as you can without impacting business functions, or is this something you have to do out of hours?
It's kind of your load, right? If you have a 10 gig link or 10 meg link or whatever it is from your service, and you're trying to generate, say it's a 10 meg service that you have, and you have a gig of traffic, you have to manage that. You can change the threshold, the load to manage that. I want to set it to 1%. Or you can say, hey, I want 2 megabits of traffic. So you manage that yourself, because we don't know what link you have and what that speed is.
Okay, I suppose I'm thinking there's not a sort of best efforts testing, but let's not break the production network. In a way, you're saying the idea is to break the production network, but you need to be responsible when running this test that your test case isn't going to mess up your production
Correct.
network. Okay.
All right, I configured 1000 Mbps on each side. I've configured the network to not handle that much. Right, it's still running the test case, but you can see it's a big difference between the RX and the TX. It's not able to handle that much traffic. Right, I wanted to fail so that I can show you some health indicators going off. As you can see, there are 2 health indicators that went off. It says drop frames greater than 1. Okay, and there's a summary of the indicators, what happened. I can choose that, select that, and it shows me more details.
And then what we'll do, you'll see TBD there right now, but and where it says errors on drop frames, but in some of them we'll tell you. Like if you have an ARP failure, we'll give you recommendations on what to do. Correlating the data, what's cool about this is that you see the history of that active traffic. Mm-hmm. So if, say, you had a high latency and then followed by a series of drop frames, you can now correlate, maybe I have a buffering issue in my network. So you can timestamp it and see it over time, and then we correlate that and give you recommendations on what you need to do to fix it.
This is based by the flows, right? Not necessarily, this is not overall, but my ARP flow, my voice, if I wanted to test for if my voice policy is working. So in theory, no voice track, I could have, a bunch of drop frames, but none of it was voices versus.
Correct. So some of those thresholds would be, hey, I want drop frames only on the high. I want an alarm if any of the high QoS traffic was dropped, and trigger along those.
So I may have missed this. So if I have, that's fine. But you're testing end-to-end flows, and you're looking at drop frames, you're looking at all this kind of stuff. What about hop by hop? Because if I've got a long path, it's interesting to me as a network guy to know that there's a problem there and we're dropping frames or there's something, but it's not necessarily useful if I've got a lot of devices in the path and I need to go and say, okay, well, where's my buffering issue? What's dropping frames? Do I have an input failure on a queue on this router here?
So we have a solution, unfortunately, I can't talk about right now.
Okay,
Fair enough. We'll be announcing it very soon.
Okay.
It's a company that we're working with, and it's exactly that. It's virtual meters that you can put in your network and give you hop-by-hop analysis. And it'll tell you which of those hops between that, what was that. If you had a high latency drop packets, it'll tell you which hop that is.
Okay.
All integrated into that Temeva dashboard.
Perfect.
So if I'm trying to understand an issue, the issue is not always occurring. It can occur randomly or maybe once every Tuesday. Can I schedule the tests to occur?
Yep. So that's part of the roadmap of the Temeva platform.
Okay.
We'll give you that. And as I mentioned, the analytics. So, hey, I want to run this test every day at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
And what we'll tell you is, hey, Joe, or Craig,
Yep.
Yesterday your test that you scheduled had a different score than it did the past 3 days. And allow you to, so you don't have to always go in and check it. You'll get notifications of that. So that's part of the benefit of doing a software as a service platform and having that data.
So another use case and how I've typically used Spirent in the past has been, we're coordinating a big test. We need to test a webcast application, and we want to understand the performance of the app while the actual user experience. So we might have 2 or 3 different tools. This will be one of the tools. So as we talk about getting smarter, how do we orchestrate that piece? So REST API to this, so I can take something like Ansible or whatever and coordinate and write a script that says, okay, kick off a load runners session here, kick off Spirent at this point, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So, and that's, all these companies working together and working with the VARs and SIs of the world that are putting these systems in place. And the way we want to solve that is provide the REST API support and make it accessible.
All right, and if you guys want to see more details with this error, we provide that per port. Just to end the demo, each of you is going to get an account to try out this application, and you'll have the details at the end of the session.
So we have a line here, and hopefully it's been pretty clear that there is a big line that separates Temeva from the applications, and we call that our cloud and the on-prem. So the idea is a company will come in, and we'll say that company's ABC. I got 5 guys that want to be able to run tests. I can buy 2 tests, 3 tests, and they can share, or I can buy 5 tests. They can all run at the same time. And they get access to the applications, and they download those applications. And we'll provide, right now we provide OVA images. We could provide different container images if you want to see if it works in Docker versus something else. Those are just the platforms that we support. I launch my application. I connect to everything in my network that's there. It could be our physical ports. You could have a combination of our hardware talking to a virtual port all in one test to see what that process is.
Sorry, so what is the agent on the hardware then? Obviously an OVA is running on a virtual machine on an ESX host that can simulate and test traffic, but then is there an agent that can somehow run on a span port on a Cisco switch or a Brocade switch or something like that? Or
So yes, if we partner with those companies and they want us to run. We are working with a couple of white box switch vendors. The good thing is everybody's kind of moving to an x86 platform. And we can run our agents, and you can basically turn a switch port into a traffic generation port using our agent. And we're doing this in the data center world. for that hop-by-hop analysis, you can have these agents running on the top of rack, in the servers, at the end of row, wherever there is access for us to run, we can run. And do
But that would need to be a white box because it's running Linux, and you can then have an agent running on
correct.
that.
If it's a proprietary, black box.
But obviously on a Cisco switch, say for example, you can't generate traffic because you haven't got an agent. But can you capture and monitor traffic from a monitored port on a?
That's the tool I was telling Taryn about that
Okay.
we'll be announcing soon, to basically consume a probe or a spam port.
Okay, so do you currently have hardware probes, or would that also just be a software probe? How would that?
So we would work
happen?
with. It doesn't really make sense for Spirent to get into the probe business because Arista has it for $250 a port on their switches. So there's a plethora of these from Arista and Gigamon and the like, and we could just plug into one of those.
Okay, so you can use their physical device to read the traffic and then pull it in.
They aggregate, they tap it, pump it out. And
so I'm thinking something like Corval, which does slow latency traffic analysis, and that's in line, and then using their software. Would you?
That's similar to the thing that we're going to be announcing.
Okay, thanks.
So that runs. It goes back and talks to store, and it's pretty simple. But the use case I was telling Keith that one of the things that we did this for a service provider that wanted to see a demo, and what we did was we took one of the cloud instances up there, one of the ones running in Oregon. And we had our data centers. We have 2 co-located data centers we partner with. We had one in San Jose, one in Virginia. And we went and launched our virtual images up in the cloud, gave them a public accessible IP. We had our VMs running in these co-located data centers and had our TrafficCenter application running just in our Calabasas office in SoCal. And we were able to run those tests with the same SLA scoring mechanisms, and we're able to get the different scores from those different data centers to those cloud providers. So you can think of this as an enterprise. I have multiple hops, multiple offices, and I want to run this test every day to get that score, to understand, hey, what is my network SLA between myself and Azure or AWS from all my different sites. And you could have these images in different East Coast, West Coast. You could have it with the safe harbor agreement ending in Europe. We see a lot of companies needing data centers now in Europe. They no longer trust the US data centers. So now all of a sudden enterprises have to go and manage it across continents. And being able to score that and manage it, it's going to become more and more important. And again, this is active testing. You can have this running all the time and gather.
So as part of your Temeva, are you then running those Spirent test centers in Azure, in SoftLayer, in AWS, or managed by Temeva, or is the management still happening by Temeva, but yet the customer is putting an agent in Virginia and putting an agent themselves in AWS?
Yeah, the customer would deploy. So we're working on like AWS to create an AMI image. So we're in the marketplace.
Okay,
so you could just spin one up and then you download the agent from Temeva to put.
But your customer ABC would spin it up under their Amazon account. It's not something that you manage.
Yeah,
okay,
correct. And if they want to see what the delta is between a small, medium, or large, they're able to do that.
Okay.